My biggest fear coming out was I'm never gonna find a boyfriend. Like I was gonna find a job, I was gonna do great, but I think when you don't see trans men falling in love on screen, you're just really sending a message. So I wanted to provide that space.
Hi, my name is Peter Knegt, and I am here with Vuk Lungulov-Klotz, the director of the incredible new film, Mutt. So I love this movie. I saw it at Sundance, and I feel like it just delves into the messiness of life in such an elegant way. And it's your first film, so congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
This film, to me, in many ways, is about the in-betweenness of life, which I feel like the title, Mutt, alludes to. Do you want to talk a little bit about the title and what you were trying to express with this film?
Yeah, absolutely. I realize that it's not obvious why it's called Mutt, and I get that question a lot at the end of the movie, which I'm like, damn, did I do a bad job at naming this? But yeah, I just wanted to talk about the in-betweenness of everything. I myself am half Chilean, half Serbian. I grew up in Chile, came to the States, to New York. No, being trans, being kind of from different nationalities and being queer, and there's a lot of places where in-betweenness is like part of who I am, and I think part of who everybody is, especially when you talk about the national identity of the United States. Like everybody is a Mutt. It's all stolen land, so
Yeah.
we're all
Here too.
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So I just thought it was very appropriate in New York and just to talk about this character.
People say I look happier.
You look more comfortable. The way you move, not as tense.
And you shot it in New York, I read, in 24 days, 37 different locations, including like your own laundromat.
Yeah, in my house, yeah.
And then, and this gives me anxiety just saying this out loud, from the last day of shooting, you world premiere at Sundance 4 months later. To me, that is one of the wildest things I've ever heard. How did you do that?
I don't ever want to do it again. I don't remember anything. No, God, yeah, we got a little extension from them. I had 2 weeks to put together a rough cut to give to Sundance to be like, do you want to see the rest of this? They said yes, and it was kind of like, oh, yay! And then it was like, holy shit, like now we have to go back and finish it, and we only had like 2 months to finish it. So at one point I just had to give it up and give it to color and sound, and that felt really weird because I had only edited for, I don't know, 2 months and a half, an entire feature film. It's like crazy. It became very intuitive.
And I mean, you can't tell. I saw it at Sundance, and I'm not sure if it's still in the same form that it was then, but I loved it. There were so many queer films at that festival, and this really stood out to me for many reasons that I'll get into. One of which is the lead performance. It wasn't just your first film, it was also your lead actor, Leo Miel's first film ever. Like, how did you come up with sort of the process to create such an incredible sort of working environment, obviously, because their performance, I believe, won like best performance at Sundance, which is so great for them.
Yeah, and they're the first trans person to win that, either femme or masc, just like period. Very, very proud of them. It was crazy. I mean, I think as a trans director with a trans lead, that inherently provides for a very safe space that you don't see often. So we were both just very excited to be working together. But let me backtrack a little bit, because finding Leo was a whole journey. I actually took like 2 years to find him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the script itself always called for a half Latino trans guy, but at one point I was having so much trouble finding someone that I was like, okay, maybe I can make them half Serbian instead, because I'm half Serbian. Like, how else can we make this work? And then I found Leo through, I have a list of 120 names.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I reached out to colleges, acting classes, just Instagram blasts, talking to my community, and like made this list. A lot of them are non-actors, which I found very brave and endearing to have people come out and be like, I want to be represented. I have no idea how to act, but this is really exciting. And then I found Leo, and it was amazing. I was like, okay, great, we can stop. We flew him in. We did a like test shoot, and he was great.
And then to throw them from not making any film before into this sort of wild shoot that happened in like a couple weeks, like that must have been like a really incredible experience for them and for you.
Yeah, it was great. They had done like some TV a little bit, but not much. So this was their first like leading role, but it was incredible to watch them grow from week 1 to week 4, and like each different character just brought out something very specific in them. So that was also just amazing to watch and help shepherd.
So you said you auditioned like over 100 people. What was it about Leo that sort of allowed them to stand out amongst that sort of crowd?
Well, first of all, they were an incredible actor.
Yeah.
And they just encapsulated the identity. It was a very specific identity. It was someone who felt like a mutt. I think one of our first conversations was him saying how just the description of the character felt like him. And he repeats this in like questions and answers all the time. So I kind of have it seared in my brain. But he always talks about how it said, you know, tender but sharp. Someone that's like in the middle of these two polarizing things.
When she gets aggressive, she's not talking to you. She's talking to all the sadness that's inside of her. I want you to know that I didn't just disappear for no reason.
He was also really excited to, he had acted before, but he had never acted as a trans person on screen. Right. And he had not acted as a trans person who was half Latino, like in New York, which is where he grew up. So there was so much about him that I think was just shining through in the audition.
I wish this film didn't feel so important in a certain sense, just because, you know, I'm a cis person. I haven't seen too many films about sort of the experience post-transition and sort of the emotions that come with this. This is one of the best films I've ever seen about that. I feel like it's so accessible, and I feel like that's just so important for cis people to understand that experience, and I feel like this film really goes a long way in doing that. Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of making this film at a moment where it's, you know, kind of dangerous to be trans?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's really sad what's happening right now. I've been out. It's very sad, and I've been out of the closet for 10 years. I was the first person that I knew to be, like when I came out as trans, I was the first trans person I had ever met. So like I've kind of feel like a dinosaur, and I know I'm not at all, and so many people have come before me, but it's crazy for me to be here for 10 years and now like look at the generation that's coming up now and just, I would be shitting myself if I was them. Yeah. Like they can put their parents in jail right now. Like that's just crazy. So the movie itself took about 6 years to make, and like I simultaneously watched the industry accept trans actors specifically a little more and kind of be, you know, it was easier to get money for this and it wasn't like the craziest idea ever. And at the same time, like watched transness have more of a spotlight and be targeted more politically. So just insane and super important. I wrote it, like I said, 6 years ago, but it just became even more relevant. And like with small things like Fenya, the lead, takes the day after pill. Like that was just a thing that everybody does. And now like they're taking abortion rights in different like states. It's just kind of, we're going backwards so quickly. But I just really wanted to create a space for trans masculinity to be seen, and just wanted to create kind of an anti-hero. Not that Fenya's a shitty person, but just someone who doesn't owe you any explanation as to why they're making certain choices.
It is part of like a big moment for trans representation where, you know, trans filmmakers are telling trans stories for the first time kind of ever. At least in the last 5 to 6 years. I'm thinking of The Stroll, which I also saw at Sundance, was so good.
I worked on it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I was a grip in the New York portion.
We had Kristen on the show.
Hell yeah.
I love that film. It's Something You Said Last Night, which is a Canadian film by Luis de Filippis. It's also here. Incredible. But like, all I ever saw of trans stories that were directed by cis, often straight men or women.
Oscar bait.
Oscar bait over and over and over again. That's not that, like Dallas Buyers Club, which is a horrible movie in so many ways, was only made like 7, 8 years ago or whatever. Like we've come so far in that way, but I feel like perhaps what's happening sort of in the political landscape is a pushback to that.
Yeah, I think so.
But for you, seeing all of this sort of representations happening, and these films are happening, these TV shows like Pose and Sort of happening, how does that feel? Like sort of as you're coming into yourself as a filmmaker to be a part of what seems like, you know, a really positive thing too.
It feels great. It feels great. I mean, I live in New York, so I've never faced like discrimination in a job, for example, but it feels great. My EP, Silas Howard, is someone that I grew up like looking up to. And he's been working in the industry for, I don't know, 23 years or so, like as a director. He's trans. And I was talking to him and he said something really nice, or something very poignant that I don't think he realized. We were just chatting, I was showing him my movie, and at one point he goes like, yeah, I guess we weren't a trend. And I was like, wow, like you don't know what it feels like. You saying that to me, I'm 29, I was like, he's like 56. I was like, shit, like that's so simple, but yeah, we weren't a trend, and we are here and we're gonna stay, and I think it's exciting to be part of that space. And yeah, like I never saw trans masculinity represented, I saw a lot of trans femininity, so I think this movie for me was just like a deep, deep hunger to see me and us reflected back, and just, I didn't feel sexy. I didn't feel like, my biggest fear coming out was I'm never gonna find a boyfriend. Like I was gonna find a job, I was gonna do great, but I think when you don't see trans men falling in love on screen, you're just really sending a message. So I wanted to provide that space.
And not just for yourself, obviously, but for other people.
Yeah.
When you've been touring with this film to all these festivals and you're going to continue doing that, people must have come up to you.
Yeah, some cry.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That must have felt really good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I want to make people cry and laugh. But yeah, a lot of people come. I get different reactions. I get people coming and being like, you healed something in me. And then I get tears with like, oh my God, I didn't think I was going to cry. Which I'm like, yes, please, let me hug you. And then I get a lot of people saying, I can't wait to watch this movie with my family.
Yeah.
Which I don't have favorites, though they're all good answers. But that one kind of hits me differently because it makes me feel like it really is an accessible movie, which is what I really wanted to do. I wanted to give all the characters that weren't trans the empathy that I wasn't given when I came out. Like the dad. Everybody here is allowed to say wrong things as long as they have their heart in the right place. So I think that kind of is very inviting for parents or anybody to watch and not feel pushed out.
Yeah, I definitely loved how it just didn't feel judgmental towards anybody in the film, you know, and it allowed everyone to kind of just be real, but in like a human way. So you're showing this film all over, at different festivals all around the world. I'm assuming the reactions probably varied from place to place. Do you want to talk about a specific reaction in one place that really sort of stands out to you?
Yeah. Germany, when we screened in Berlin, it was funnier than I thought it was going to be. We got a lot more laughs, which I was like, okay, I guess I wrote a comedy, which I kind of did, but that was really endearing. And our homecoming in New York was, I think, the most emotionally reactive. When you show a New York movie to New York audiences, I think they love it. But yeah, and a lot of crying. Not that I'm surprised by that, but I love hearing everybody sniffle at the end.
It is a very New York movie, and not in like the sort of way that glamorizes it. You know, it just felt very sort of real.
Yeah, I wanted to show New York in like a non-glamorized way. The same way that I wanted to show a trans character that wasn't a taboo or a martyr or anything. Like I would like for someone to not even recognize it as New York. I know that that's impossible because it is New York, but there are no shots of like the city shining at night or anything like that. It's just the New York that I know and that I go to. The bar is owned by a friend, for example. Yeah, it's all, I location scouted, so everything takes place within 2 blocks of my house, kind of. And then there are other places, but yeah, it's very much my encapsulation of that time of my life.
You know, next time around, you're not going to have to do this, I don't think, at least, in 24 days, 37 locations. What's kind of sort of a dream project for you?
Ooh, very different.
Yes.
I don't know if I should talk about this, but I'm currently really excited about a magic realist, horrific, erotic thriller.
Okay.
I'm writing it right now. So just very different. And then there's like a long form love story that I want to also tell. Just like much more time, more money. Yeah.
Erotic thrillers, I think, need a comeback.
It's going to be weird. This one's going to be really weird, but I think it's going to add to the erotic thriller world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that you're sort of getting to the other side of the experience, you're on the other side of the production experience and now sort of enjoying this part, do you have advice for people trying to make their first film, and in terms of sort of the barriers that you had to cross and the doors you had to push open? Just like any thoughts for people who are trying to emulate what you just did?
It's a hard question.
I'm sorry.
No, it's a hard question. It's a very valid question, but there's no one way to do it. It's always going to be a miracle. So you just have to line up a few miracles in a row for it to happen. But I will say a few things that I believe in. One is, don't be afraid of a short film. I know that's a sometimes very upsetting thing to hear when you're trying to get a feature done, but proof of concept or just another thing to get you to festivals, to talk to people, I think is really important. I also work in film. I'm a lighting technician. So I have 8 years under my belt. I've done 14 features, so many commercials in New York City. And not that you should be a grip, but I think a lot of the conversations that I started on set, like half of our financing came from me talking to people on set. And I want to say 80% of the crew was people that I was able to just pull from all the years of experience and all these friends that I had made. So that's a very specific advice, but kind of be in the world is always good. And just be really loud. For me, it was really hard I went through the Sundance Writers Lab. Apply to labs, do that. That was great. I went through the Sundance Writers Lab and I was 23 at the time. I was pretty young. And then I did it again the next year. But I was very almost embarrassed of that. And after a few years, I just got over that embarrassment and wanted to occupy space. I think as a queer person, you forget that you can occupy space and you can be loud. So just kind of talking a lot on set and just being like, hey, well, you know what? I did this thing. Do you want to hear? Which is very obnoxious, but it got me to where I am now. And also from a place of like love, like the energy that I try to give is not like, hey, you're going to love this shit. It's like, yo, do you want to make this together? And hopefully the way I talk about this movie is inspiring and, you know, it's coming from a good place within me. I don't know if this is advice, but I think it's like, you have to be in love with your story. Like, this is a marriage. I have 6 to 7 years with Mutt. That's my husband, you know? So whatever it is that you're trying to put out there, just make sure that your heart is behind it because you are the single engine pushing it forward.
Well, congratulations on the story you were in love with and the love that you're both putting out into the world now. This is a fantastic film, and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks. I love it. Cute. I love joining this list. Yeah, it's got some icons here.